Yeah, it is.
Calling us back to order because we have three more fabulous speeches to hear. Am I on mute? Am I on mute? Am I on camera? Is it live?
You're on camera and you're being recorded.
Hello, Toastmasters and guests. Welcome back to Laugh That Story Masters. Our next speaker is also our Toastmaster for the day, Kyle Hall. Kyle is speaking from the Engaging Humor Manual, and he is giving us an 8 to 10 minute speech today from a level 1 project. Kyle wants our help. He has an ambition of crafting a 30 to 40 minute humorous talk, which is more of an after dinner speech than a keynote. He begins that journey today by offering us a few of the anecdotes upon which he'll build his talk. And he wants our feedback on this topic and our suggestions for making it more humorous. So put on your funny ears. Sharing with us this morning the sum total of what he has learned about dealing with the female of the species, that's the human species. Welcome Kyle Hall, some, including himself, who describe him as clueless.
I discovered my cluelessness at a fairly early age. I was 6 or 7 years old, first grade. My parents would take us to church on Sundays, and after church, I was shuffled off to Sunday school, and there were 5 or 6 of us there, and across the table from me sat Amy. And after this had been going on for a few weeks, I realized I had feelings for Amy. I didn't know what feelings. I couldn't really identify it. I didn't know what to do about it. I couldn't talk to her. I mean, she was a girl. She had girl germs. But I had feelings, and I wanted her to know I had feelings. So one Sunday school session, I summoned up my courage, and I snaked my foot across under the table and pressed my foot against her foot. She didn't move her foot. Now, she played it really cool. She didn't look at me. She didn't say anything. She didn't smile. She played it really cool. But she left her foot pressed against mine. That was enough for me for that Sunday. And the next Sunday, the same thing happened. I summoned up the courage. I snaked my foot across and I pressed it against her foot. And we just sat there and played it cool. That whole hour that Sunday school went on. Now, the third week, I snaked my foot across the room and I pressed it up against hers, and she pressed hers back against mine. And then the teacher was going to have us get up one at a time and write on the boards something. I had no idea what. I wasn't thinking about anything except my foot pressed against mine. Well, Amy got up and was writing on the board, and I realized her foot still pressed against mine. How is that possible? So I looked under the table, and for the past 3 weeks, I've been playing footsie with the table leg. The only saving grace was that Amy had no knowledge of this. So I may be clueless, but I'm teachable, at least a little bit. And I learned an important lesson in my sophomore year of high school. I was walking into the school, heading for my locker, and I heard, "Ow!" And I saw my friend, John, stagger away holding his face. And behind him was Tammy, standing in front of her locker in a rage. Well, I know John, he probably deserved this one. So I went to Tammy and said, "Tammy, are you okay?" She was like, "I am so mad at him. I'm so mad at him." "What do you do? What do you do?" He called me a girl. I told him, "I'm not a girl, I'm a woman." And all the time I'm talking to him, all he could do was stare at my chest. I asked him, "Are you even listening to me?" And he said, "What?" So I slapped him. Now, I have to tell you that while John has been a jackass in the past and will probably be a jackass in the future, undoubtedly deserved that slap, I had a certain sympathy for him because I was a teenage male and I had the same hormones poisoning my bloodstream that he had, making coherent thought a rare and sought after luxury. And Tammy was an intelligent, energetic, attractive, and curvaceous young woman, and dare I say, daring young woman, because that day she was wearing an outfit that was tighter, lower cut, and more revealing than most young women or even adults I think would be comfortable wearing to high school. So while Tammy was ranting at me, I was trying to make sympathetic noises like, "You're right. He should have called you a woman. He should have looked you in the eyes." Yeah. And while I was trying to make the sympathetic noises, I didn't want Tammy's anger turned on me. So I kept trying to look her in the eyes, but my eyes were fighting this battle with gravity. And so while she's ranting at me, inside, all I'm doing is must make eye contact. Must make eye contact. Don't look down. I was saved from my exhausting battle by the bell. The bell telling us it was time to go to class. So I said to Amy, I'm sorry, John was a jackass. I gotta get to my locker and get to class. And she went, "Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Thanks for listening." And she bounced off. Amy had gone from enraged Amazonian warrior to cheerful cheerleader in moments. Could it have been because I listened to her and I called her a woman and I looked her in the eyes? Would it be that simple? Nah. Well, the three little half lessons I learned that day stood me in good stead. When I went off to college, I met a young woman and I listened to her. And my eyes fought the battle with gravity often enough that she allowed me to court her and eventually marry her. But a year after I married her, I was reminded again how clueless I can be. My wife and I were at a Christmas party, and she was sitting a couple of tables away from me talking with a friend. I was momentarily alone because the gentleman I'd been talking with had gone up to seek the little boy's room. Well, an attractive blonde woman walked up to the table and leaned on it and started talking to me. Now, she must have been completely unaware that the swoop cut of her blouse and her leaning on the table like she was created a gap, which would allow one to look right down her shirt. Well, I was in a terrible position because I knew that all I had to do was glance down to screw up and embarrass her. So I tried to make amiable conversation, as amiable a conversation as you can make with somebody while chanting in the back of your head, make eye contact, do not look down. And the conversation seemed to be going on well, except she seemed to be getting more and more frustrated, discontented. And finally, I was saying something, I don't remember what, and she finally went, "I have to go." And she briskly walked off. Well, that was strange, but I didn't think anything of it. And that night when my wife and I are driving home, she said to me, "Hey, do you remember that blonde woman you talked to for a little while?" I said, yeah, I do. She seemed kind of nice, but the conversation was a little strange. What, did you know she was trying to pick you up?" What? No. Yep. Trying to pick me up. Why would she do that? And my wife just smiled to herself and shook her head. Now, I would like to think that my cluelessness is limited to the female of the human species. Alas, that is not the case. Those of you who've seen me on Zoom will have met my cat Kismet, who likes to get attention while I'm on the Zoom meeting. Well, we adopted Kismet. She was a rescue. We adopted her. And on her second day with us, I told my wife I was going to bed early. I had a book I wanted to finish. I was going to go to bed, sit up and read for a while. So I'm reading, and I feel Kismet jump onto the bed. And she walks up to me, and she's got this serious look in her eyes. She walks right up under my chest and plops down and demands attention. So I put my book down and I start scratching. And like a cat, she purrs. And she starts kneading, just a little bit of kneading. Now, for those of you who don't know cat language, purring and kneading are both signs that I like what's going on here. Well, she seemed to be enjoying it, so I scratched her more and more vigorously, and her purring got louder. And she starts doing more of the claw action. Well, okay, I'm feeling encouraged, so I'm scratch her tail, scratch her side, scratch her tummy, scratch her skin, behind the ears, scratch her cheeks, her neck, you know, the nose, and her purring got to the point where she couldn't get a full purr out. She didn't so much sound like a purring, but like somebody trying to start up a 57 Chevy. She's like, and all 4 feet, she's on her back, all 4 feet are doing this. This cat was in ecstasy. Now, really, there was nothing unnatural going on here. Really, this was just a guy scratching his cat. At least that's what I thought. Until my wife walked in, cocked the hip, put her hand on it, raised the eyebrow and said, "What's going on here?" Kismet leapt off me, ran to the corner of the bed, facing away from the two of us, and started studiously cleaning her paws. Now, even to my clueless male mind, that was we're not doing anything rude. And I looked at my wife and said, "What just happened here?" She smiled to herself and shook her head and left the room. And I would hand control back to the Toastmaster, but that's me.